What's up, dear friends? My name is Vladimir, and welcome back to my channel. And today we have on our test flight a truly brand new aircraft, the Cirrus SR22 G7. The Cirrus company previously produced this model from the 1st to the 7th generation, with the exception of the 4th. And of course, we were so curious to know why actually the 4th generation was missed. And it turned out that there were two reasons. The first is that one of the main investors is China, and Cirrus took it seriously. I mean, the idea of entering the Chinese market and selling its aircraft there. But in China, as everyone knows, the number 4 is considered unlucky. And what is more, if you pronounce the word 4 in Chinese, it actually sounds similar to the word death. So pretty obviously, breaking into the Chinese market with the generation death wasn't really a good idea. This particular aircraft is the first G7 to arrive in Europe, and is in fact the third serial number produced by the manufacturer in Generation 7. And basically, looking at the update list, we can say that not only avionics has changed, but also the navigation system. I mean, this connection between the pilot and the plane, it has drastically changed. And to be fair, in addition to Cirrus, it is also necessary to pay tribute to the Garmin company. Because in collaboration with Cirrus, they have done an enormous job and created the most friendly and kind of responsive communication program to the pilot. I mean, interface. And generally, when we got acquainted with the update list, it was about 40 positions. The manufacturer worked very well on the cockpit, and if you compare the interior of the Vision Jet and the interior of the SR22, then frankly, it felt as if the Vision Jet wasn't kind of up to the standards. Here, if we are talking about the quality of interior decoration, fitting parts, and painting, the SR22 is literally brought to the level of the expensive automotive industry. I mean, it's all very neat, and it's all about the details. Inside the cabin, all the details are really worked out, and it's clear that Cirrus has taken a very smart approach to this and took into account all the pilot's needs. Here is a special pocket where it is easy to find the iPad. There is a space for glasses, and here is a small pocket for the phones as well. So handy. And the crucial thing is, during the flight, the pilot has to calculate the fuel output in the left and right tanks. Well, this model is equipped with such automatic system. Here you can see the switch lever, and when the lid is open, you can manually switch from left to right tank and check how much fuel is spent. But when the lid is closed, that's it. Everything happens automatically. You no longer need to worry about it. And the plane, after spending 4 gallons, which is 15 liters, switches to another tank itself. That is, all management is fully automatic to maintain balance in the issue of fuel consumption. Speaking of automotive philosophy, this plane opens up the same key as the car. But the kit also has the usual keys, in case you run out of battery in something else. For the rest, everything opens and closes with this key fob. And the launch of the plane requires only a button, no more regular key, as it was in previous models of this aircraft. All these systems, updated on SR22, are already fairly tested. I mean, in addition to the fact that they work perfectly on the large aircraft of this manufacturer, so even earlier, you might have seen them on the Vision Jet SF50, where they have been working for years. And all they did was literally put the cockpit of the jet inside the piston one. The result is actually impressive, and from my experience on flying this plane, I can tell you that the control is so simplified now. It's not like it used to be when you're kind of playing the pilot, switching one lever to another and stuff like that. The total number of buttons here is minimal. The number of actions is minimized and simplified to such an extent that the plane either itself hints to you the action, or even does it itself instead of you. Preparing to launch the Vision Jet. Oh no, again. Preparing to launch the SR22. First, we turn on the 2 batteries installed here. After clicking, a check sheet will appear on the screen, and moving the wheel, we go through the list and see what we have done. Then, push the button to start. And here we go. We need to get the pin out of the sling system and put it here. What we see in front of us is the visible change that happened in Generation 7. These are the two touchscreen displays that control everything. Now we have a radio station. There are the main menu and two large displays that we can use just as we like. I'll show you something. Let's say we can display traffic or we can open a map. We can put charts, for example. Now we have Boruspol, and the crucial thing is that the plane can perform this procedure of instrumental entry on its own. We just need to program it, and right before we land, the pilot will take the wheel and gently put the plane on the runway. Everything on the screen can be zoomed, including you can transfer this data to the second display and do all the same on it. And what's interesting is that we're now using the second display as a technical one. And this is where we now have the fuel system and the electrical system data. We can also add a de-icing system. We can track how much of our tanks are full and what's left by means of the system. I guess if we were to compare this plane to its predecessors, I'd say it's a smartphone. I mean, at one time, there was such a great phone, Nokia, and the company still exists today. And those phones were really good button quality, whereas screen displays back then was considered unreliable. Funny that the whole world has switched to touchscreen. Look, the plane did a full tally on its own, and it shows that we're going to run 1,138, and in about 2,100 feet, we'll go up to a height of 50 feet. And it's all been done for taking into account the amount of fuel on board, the number and weight of passengers on board, and the weather conditions. All this is done automatically. I'd like to point out another cool detail that has migrated from a large Aviation to the SR22. It is a sensor for sensing flow separation over the wing. Right now, you and I are simulating a plane crash as it goes into a pre-crash state. Do you hear? That's a warning sound, and besides it, there is a tangible vibration on the helm as well. The plane thus tells you that everything is not okay. What's more, when you make certain mistakes, the plane will try to tell you what's needed to be fixed. It can be said that these helper functions are literally brought up to the standards of commercial airlines that carry passengers. The fuel tanks of this model are calculated on 90 gallons of fuel. This is enough for about 1,100 miles of travel in non-stop mode. And a few more really cool options. This plane is certified for ice flying. It's not like you were flying and accidentally entered the ice zone. No, it's absolutely legal for you to fly it, knowing you're going to get into the ice zone. And this edge, that is a titanium plate, which is a liquid de-icing system. And here's a special hole through which this liquid could be poured inside. And when the plane gets into the conditions of icing, look, the surface is fully covered with micropores. They begin to emit de-icing fluid, and the plane starts to kind of sweating up. And this liquid flows along the wing and protects it from the ice. And it's the same on the empennage. Also, the nozzles on the windscreen, which is spraying this liquid all over the glass and accordingly. You can also notice small tubes through which this liquid is fed, including the screw, and it doesn't freeze. Again, this is a certified aircraft. Another interesting option worth mentioning is the thermal imaging camera. In the case of flights in the dark, you just turn this system on, and the display will appear with a thermal picture. And I'd say that's a really helpful thing to have on two occasions. The first is when you land in the dark, and the program helps you to see if there are any animals on the runway or other objects. And the second one, this program really helps in the dark to assess the cloudiness ahead. Well, getting into the convenience part, I'm sitting in the passenger seat now, considering the pilot seat is actually set to my height. And I would say that I even have a little free leg space left. There are also 4 cup holders in the kit, 2 for pilots and 2 for passengers. So good that in this model charging connectors Type-C and USB are provided not only for pilots, but available near the passenger seats as well. It is really convenient that you can charge your gadgets during your trip and your children can enjoy playing on their devices while flying. And I want to point out how beautifully this ambient illumination is performed. Look, so stylish. So now, guys, it's finally time for our test flight. Honestly, the weather today is awful, so wet. But luckily, in the sky, we won't feel it. So let's go fly. The plane is quite nimble, though, and it begins to accelerate instantly. Yeah, 45 knots, 50, 60, 65, 70.75 knots. And now we are carefully raising the nose and climbing up. The plane easily reaches 90 knots. See? Listen, let's make a bet. How soon do you think Cirrus will add monitors for passengers? In the next G8? You know, that's a pretty cool idea. I bet next year there will be a wireless charger, and I'm sure I will win. Now, I've set the heading mode and also vertical speed dialing. This means it will automatically gain altitude with a speed of 600 feet per minute. And if we now want to continue flight by hand, then, as if in the game, such a gate appears on the screen and we have to fly through them. And by doing so, we will definitely reach our destination at the altitude we need. And it's clear that now we're flying on autopilot, and the plane itself carries out all of the above. But if you will, you can play. So the plane is flying itself now? Yeah, absolutely. But what happens if you hold the joystick during the autopilot? It's totally wrong. You know, actually helping the autopilot manually is wrong on any plane. The autopilot can perceive this as a load on the steering surfaces, and accordingly, it will compete with you. That is, it is a gross error. If you want to do something manually, please do. There's no question. Just click the turn off the autopilot button and do whatever you want. And still, what would happen if you, for example, started to turn left by hand now? In any case, the plane will try to resist you, and yet the mechanism is designed in such a way that the pilot will ultimately have primacy. I mean, the plane won't shut down and will resist the whole time, right? It will be, but no one knows how long. So how much does the G7 cost? If we are talking particularly about the SR22, it comes in two designs. That's the non-turbo version that we're flying now, and there's a turbocharged one. In a good configuration, such as this plane, it will cost you about $1.2 million, and a turbo design about $1.3 million. To make you understand, and according to your projections, what would it be worth in a year if you bought it now? As a rule, the price of aircraft increases by 7% per year. On the one hand, they will be more expensive, as the common market will grow about 7% on average. On the other hand, it will be cheaper because it won't be a new plane. So it's very likely that if there's a lot of demand, in a year, I'll be able to sell it at the same price I bought it or a little cheaper. But sometimes on certain models, there's even a chance of making extra profits. On average, it can fly at a fairly economical speed of about 190 miles per hour relative to the ground and not considering wind speed. I'm about the non-turbo one, and at the same time, its economical consumption will be about 13 gallons. And if we are talking about non-economical mode, then it will be 200 miles per hour with fuel consumption of 20 gallons per hour. This all must be considered in advance. Well, a few more words about the turbo version as well. This bird is able, depending on the height, to fly at a speed of about 250 miles per hour. Well, we're not far from the airfield, so we're taking a little speed control. We turn off the autopilot, 100% off the flaps, and we're about to land. Checking the brakes, everything is fine, and keeping the speed 80 knots. Well, and I want to note that the view from this cabin is fantastic, though. And actually, as far as I get, the strip is quite long. So we won't greatly slow down the speed, just getting closer to the ground and smoothly sitting down. Such a power-consuming landing gear, you know. Though Ryanair wouldn't approve your landing, that's for sure. They'll send you to make it again. Now we can activate the steering hit mode. Now he shows us Foxtrot. Then we have to move to Eco 1, then Eco 2, then Eco 3, then Bravo, Hotel 1, Hotel 2, and finally to the Lima. Now that we have all the clues, we can steer as well by using a car navigator. And now the plane itself will tell us where to steer. And it's so convenient, especially when you land on an unfamiliar large airfield, as we are today in Katowice. And thanks to these clues, we won't be distracting dispatch. Although, if you have no idea where to go, it's better if you request and pay for the detailed taxi instruction, and the dispatcher will help you. But generally, all this can now be done automatically, with no need to ask the dispatchers, so you can drive yourself wherever you want. At one time, Cirrus Aircraft was considered an upstart against the backdrop of reputable, long-established companies in the world of aviation. And when the Cirrus first appeared, they first released the Cirrus VK30, pretty extravagant one as it was counted, so no one really took it seriously. But closer to 2000, when the SR20 and the SR22 appeared, the reaction to these aircraft was almost identical. A young, upstart airplane with an active pricing and marketing policy. I mean, they didn't raise a standing ovation at first, but now it's a major player in the general aviation market. And actually, Cirrus Aircraft sells more piston aircraft than all other general aviation companies in this segment. And frankly speaking about the G7, I really like this plane. I was really excited about this one and got a lot of fun from our flight. What's more, although flying Cirrus aircrafts was always a great experience for me, this particular model combines all that I would like to see in my own dream plane. I swear. It's almost perfect. And most importantly, at the end, I want to point out that Cirrus Company this year will turn 40 years old. And so far, their aircraft began to reflect the so-called royal blood. The royal blood that comes with time, with experience. It's a good thoroughbred plane that amazingly interacts with a pilot, so that flying on it will bring nothing but absolute comfort and pleasure. I don't want to, but I will say anyway that it's a really simple and manageable one. And it's just a great machine. I mean, I always enjoy flying, but the G7 really surprised me, despite the fact that I have a lot of experience flying on different Cirrus models. Come to the sky. Fly such wonderful planes that we fly. I am Vladimir. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.